Your blades are sharpened with precision, flashing your favorite point of view. I know you're waiting in the distance, just like you always do, just like you always do. Already pulling me in, already under my skin, and I know exactly how this ends. I let you cut me open just to watch me bleed. Gave up who I am for who you wanted me to be. Don't know why I'm hoping for what I won't receive. Falling for the promise of the emptiness machine. The emptiness machine.
Welcome back to another exciting episode of StraussNet Sports Radio. It is Sunday, February 2nd, 2025. It is our first episode of 2025, and it is our 20th official episode. I had the Cardinal Caravan interview show last year, and there might be one of those coming this year. We may just skip straight to the spring training show, but point being, we've done about 21 recordings. This is our 20th regular episode, plus the interview show from the Cardinal Caravan. Anyways, when I last left you, it was postseason for baseball. The Dodgers won over the Yankees, something everybody kind of expected. Last year we had two teams that were not exactly the run-of-the-mill. The Rangers beat the Diamondbacks, and this year we had two iconic franchises. And yes, people found a way to complain about both of those matchups. But either way, it was an interesting World Series. Dodgers went up 3-0. Really fun Game 1. Freddie Freeman with a walk-off grand slam. Yankees made an attempt to come back from 0-3, and it did not work out. But today is not about baseball. We will do baseball. We'll do the spring training show coming up here later in February or March. This is one of my favorite episodes of the year. A week from today is Super Bowl 59. It is our Super Bowl episode. And like I said, this is one of my favorite episodes. I like going back, seeing how the season went. The Super Bowl is like a national holiday, it feels like, especially if one of my teams is in it. Unfortunately, my cohort is not currently with me. He had to sit this one out, so I'm flying solo. TBD if I run a second segment over the next couple of days to add him in, but we'll just see how scheduling works out. But for now, we're going to go over everything like we normally do without my betting buddy, Tim Bradshaw. He did tell me a few different things that he's looking at, so I'll kind of walk you through what he was looking at over the playoffs and into the Super Bowl, and we'll get into the fun bets and things that I'm looking at. But let's take it from the top. Let's go back 2 years. The Kansas City Chiefs beat the Philadelphia Eagles in Arizona in Super Bowl 57. The year before, we'll walk it back a little further, the Chiefs did not make it to the Super Bowl. The Bengals beat them in overtime. And the 2 years before that, the Chiefs were in the Super Bowl, beating San Francisco in Super Bowl 54. 55 is when Brady beat them in Tampa. So you have the Kansas City Chiefs winning a Super Bowl, losing a Super Bowl, not making it, and then Super Bowl 57, they win the Super Bowl against the Eagles. Stay frosty. That means something. For those of you who are paying attention, you know why. I'm being coy, but we'll get there. Last year, the Chiefs, with an interesting receiving core, nothing crazy, make it back to the Super Bowl, and in overtime, defeat the San Francisco 49ers. Back-to-back champions. I will tell you that a Super Bowl three-peat has never occurred. And immediately after the Super Bowl, Travis Kelce announced, we're going for 3. Here we are in 2024, the 2024 NFL season. Kansas City Chiefs, back-to-back defending champions. Can they three-peat? Well, it's possible because, guess what? The Chiefs are in the Super Bowl. The Chiefs are in the Super Bowl once again, and they are playing the Philadelphia Eagles. But they look a little bit different than last time around. The Chiefs have added some receivers. Isaiah Pacheco's still there, but he got hurt this year. The running back, Isaiah Pacheco, He got hurt this year, came back, but during that, Kareem Hunt, who was with the team for most of the year when they went to Super Bowl 54, but was released due to some off-field issues, got his life together, now has a second chance. He has been in the NFL these last several years, but the Chiefs brought him back to make up for Pacheco. So they now have a two-headed running attack, plus a couple other running back options, fullback, P. Ryan as well, and they have a good running attack. Pacheco's been good. Pacheco kind of functions as the finesse and receiving back, and yeah, he's got power, but Kareem Hunt is definitely the power running back, and they're really good at deploying both those guys to their specialties. I also mentioned the receivers. They didn't have a ton of receivers the last couple of years who were ultra reliable. Well, this year, coming off a fantastic rookie season, Rashee Rice, he got hurt. He's out for the year. Well, what do? They only went and signed Juju Smith-Schuster, who they had 2 years ago when they won the Super Bowl. They trade for DeAndre Hopkins, who, yeah, he's lost a step, but still very good. Oh, and they drafted Xavier Worthy in the first round of the draft this past year. And they've put together what I believe is the most complete receiving core that they have had in any of these Super Bowls, including when Tyreek Hill was on the team. They've had good receivers, but like they replaced Hill with Juju Smith-Schuster, and then they had a handful of other guys. This year, any of those players I mentioned have had big games. Obviously, they still have Travis Kelce, the superstar tight end, who continues to chase down guys like Rob Gronkowski and Tony Gonzalez. He had a fantastic year. Didn't seem quite as involved as he did the last couple of years. Maybe age is catching up, maybe not. I think he's still a good player. We may see the days where he's no longer the super elite player, but still an important part of this team. And then the defense. The defense has been fantastic. The Chiefs had a lot of games where they didn't score 30 points, and the defense held their own. It's going to be very interesting to see what the Eagles can do against them. They went through a couple of different kickers. Harrison Butker is still one of the best kickers in the league. He missed some time this year with a knee injury, but came back and was fine throughout the late part of the season and the playoffs. And they almost had a chance at a perfect season. They lost in Buffalo earlier this year, and then the last week of the season, they pretty much waved the white flag. They sat all the regulars. They had the first seed locked up. They went on in the divisional round to play the Houston Texans and played a tight but game. I wouldn't say they dominated, but they seemed to have most of the control of that game. Then they ended up playing the Buffalo Bills, the team that beat them, the team that always seems to be right on their heels, aside from the Bengals. I actually got to enjoy going to this game, the conference championship game against Buffalo in Kansas City. I've been to 2 NFL games now. Went last year to Green Bay when the Chiefs lost to the Packers, and now this year the AFC title game between the Bills and the Chiefs. I almost said the Patriots. I'm so used to the Patriots playing in these games that I almost said the Patriots. And for those of you who have followed my fandom, I'm still not quite lifelong, like as of early Patriots Tom Brady era fan, and I've just sort of latched onto the Chiefs as some of the fans in St. Louis have, and I think going to those games has really helped me become a bigger fan of the team. People know my allegiances are usually St. Louis, Boston. Obviously, St. Louis doesn't have an NFL team currently. I was never really a Rams fan, and the Chiefs have just been easy to latch onto, so make your jokes, but I'm not really sorry. I did not jump on the bandwagon after they won a Super Bowl. I took interest in them as they were getting better, and Mahomes is just a fun player to watch. So my football midlife crisis that I talked about a couple years ago is over, where it's like, well, who's my second team? I'm still a Patriots fan, but who else do I like? Well, it's the Chiefs, and oddly enough, they actually may have moved into the front because I've actually gotten to see them. But I digress. I'm enjoying my time getting to actually see the Chiefs, and this was a fantastic game. The Chiefs actually kicked off first. They deferred, but stopped the Bills and then scored, and the place was going nuts. And it was a little bit of a back and forth game. The thing that I really noticed about this game was that the Bills left everything out there. They went for it on fourth, 2-point conversions. I mean, they were taking unnecessary risks because they felt like they've not been able to beat the Chiefs at this time of year. And they were just going to do everything they could. Now, I didn't necessarily agree with all those decisions. I feel like the 2-point conversions were analytics moves. They were just trying to get ahead. It's like sometimes just take the points. Ultimately, the Chiefs won 32-29. And I'm looking at the stat sheet, and I'm trying to see if there were two-point conversions that were failed. 1 failed, 2 failed. So you're talking about a 1-point game. It doesn't change anything that much, but they did go for it on fourth several times using not the Eagles tush push, but a quarterback sneak with Josh Allen. And there have been a lot of experts saying maybe if they ran a regular play, they could have got that 4th and 1. Now, I will tell you, the Chiefs had a lot of trouble with James Cook. He was really good. It wasn't like he was getting 1 or 2 yards every time. He was getting 4, 5, and 6 at least. He was really good. He was getting down the field. He was catching the ball. He was running the ball. Chiefs were having trouble with him. I think the Bills got away from using James Cook late in the game, trying to pass, trying to run Josh Allen, and they could have probably put the game away had they just kept running the ball. But it's in the past now. The Chiefs advanced to their 3rd straight Super Bowl. And what is this now? Super Bowl 54, 55, 57, 58, and 59. 5 of 6. So we're already talking Patriots territory in terms of going to a bunch of Super Bowls. It's actually more in a short period of time than the Patriots went to. The Patriots went to those 3 Super Bowls early in 4 years. Then they went to Super Bowl 42. But there's a couple years off between because out of 39, then they lost 42. And then they lost 46, and then you get to 49, 51, 2, and 3. So that's 4 Super Bowls in 5 years, and this is 5 and 6, and counting. I don't know if they'll go back next year, but they definitely have a chance to do the three-peat, and if, regardless of the three-peat, it's like I say about the Houston Astros. You got to respect them until they don't do it. I'm not going to get into the referee talk. I'm just not going to do it. They've gotten favorable calls, yes, but I'm just not going to... I think the NFL has moments where it's fluffed. I don't know that it's necessarily rigged. So, I said that about the Patriots when the Patriots were kind of being punished for Spygate or Deflategate, and there were some calls they didn't get. I think things are fluffed one way or the other, but I don't think it's like we're going to choreograph this so that this happens. All the people saying, well, they want Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift to be front and center all the time to get all the Swifties. I don't believe in that level of conspiracy theory. Yeah, I think certain teams get some calls. I think certain teams and certain players get calls in all sports. So that's about as far as I'm going to take it. I'm not going to go detail by detail with all the different calls that have happened. Having said that, the Chiefs have been very, very lucky this year. The first week, you had Likely for Baltimore catch what could have been a game-winning touchdown, and his foot touches the back side of the end zone, the out-of-bounds line. So the Chiefs win it by a foot. The unlikely ending. There was a blocked kick. There was a missed kick. There was a kick to win the division that doinked off the uprights and in. I mean, they've had a lot of luck. So I will say that. And then, like I said, they didn't score a bunch early in the season. But sure enough, last couple of games, they've gotten it going. Even though it was a back-and-forth game in the AFC title game, they were rolling. The defense did as much as they needed to do. They bent, but they didn't break. And the offense, they scored them 32 points. So they head to the Super Bowl playing probably exactly how they want to play. Pretty much everyone that they need is healthy. I haven't heard of any major injuries. Let's look at the AFC as a whole and how that finished. Buffalo obviously won their division. My other team, New England Patriots, finished in last and fired their coach. They moved on from Gerard Mayo after one season, and he did a lot of things that were head-scratching in my opinion. I didn't really like his opening press conference, and I'm not going to repeat the things that he said. It gets social, political, and I just don't want to get into that. I kind of steer away from politics on this show. They've replaced him with Mike Vrabel, and Josh McDaniels is back as well for the umpteenth time. Drake May looked really good. So hopefully there's some good things in the Patriots' future. I'm still pulling for them. Chiefs won their division, and the Chargers in Denver made the playoffs. Bo Nix looked really good. Baltimore and Pittsburgh both made the playoffs. Baltimore won their division. They played the Bills in the divisional round. Both teams looked pretty good. We'll see if Lamar Jackson can ever get to a Super Bowl. Good player, they just never seem to put it all together. And Houston had another good season, winning their division. So that was the AFC. Let's look at the way that stacked up in the playoffs. Chiefs, Buffalo, Baltimore, Houston, Chargers, Pittsburgh, and Denver. Now, in the NFC, Philadelphia won their division, obviously. The Washington Commanders had a surprise season. Jaden Daniels looked fantastic. They made it to the conference championship game against the Eagles, but the Eagles were just too good for them. The Rams won their division. Seattle, Arizona, and San Francisco all kind of disappointed, actually. San Francisco really disappointed, falling to 6-11 after a Super Bowl season. So we'll see if they can turn that around in a hurry. They had some injuries, obviously, that did not help them. Detroit, the Lions, won the number one overall seed in the NFC and somehow fell out in the divisional round. They played one playoff game and had to go home. A very Lions thing to do is what a lot of people were saying. But they had a fantastic season. Everything for them looked great. They were just bludgeoning teams, but there were some cracks in the armor late in the season. People saying they're giving up a lot of points. Yeah, they're scoring, but they're just... They lost 45-31 to Washington, and it'll be interesting to see if they can bounce back. It's hard to have a magical season and then not make it where you want to go. I mean, look at the New York Rangers in hockey. They were the President's Trophy winner and looked like they were a team that could go to the Stanley Cup final last year, and they're just not having a good year, and they've already traded their captain. I mean, that's the kind of thing that happens. If you have a great season and it doesn't go right, it just feels like you fall off. The St. Louis Cardinals in 2015, after all those division titles and going to the World Series and the 100-win season, and the Cubs beat them in the playoffs, and it felt like the Cubs kind of took the wind out of St. Louis's sails, and the Cardinals missed the playoffs the next 3 years. I'm not saying it's going to happen in Detroit. I think they're still building. I think they're still good. But it's hard to lose that kind of season. So Detroit wins their division and the number one seed. Minnesota actually played Detroit the last week of the season for the number one seed or a wild card spot. And they had Sam Darnold, and they just kind of fell apart in those big games. They had Sam Darnold. That was not who their quarterback was supposed to be. It was supposed to be J.J. McCarthy, who was with Michigan last year, but he got hurt, and Sam Darnold quickly had to take over. So the Vikings had kind of an unexpected season after the injury. Green Bay also made the playoffs, but they fell to the Eagles as well. They just didn't seem healthy at the end. They lost a game the last week of the season to the Bears. It's the first time the Bears have beaten the Packers in a number of years, and I kind of knew it at the time. My wife's a Packers fan. She appreciates the Chiefs as well, but we were watching that game, and it looked like the Bears were just a little bit better, and the Bears were not good this year. They ended up firing their coach mid-season, and that's never happened, ever. They've never fired a coach mid-season. So the hapless Bears, with all the pomp and circumstance around Caleb Williams, who looked very raw at best. Green Bay managed to come back in that game, but then fell on a game-winning field goal by the Bears, and that pushed them all the way to having to play the Eagles in the first round, and that doomed them. Tampa Bay Buccaneers squeaked out enough wins to get the division in the South, but they fell against the Washington Commanders as well. So, where does that leave us? That leaves us at Super Bowl 59, next Sunday. Kansas City Chiefs at 15-2, and the Philadelphia Eagles at 14-3. Game will be on Fox at 5:30 Central Time. It is in New Orleans. Last time we were in New Orleans, we had San Francisco falling to Baltimore. Harbowl, if you will. So what do I think of this Super Bowl? I think the Kansas City Chiefs can win. And I'm just going to admit that from watching them and with the way they've been the last few years, I'm biased. It's like watching the Patriots when they had Brady. It's really hard to count them out, no matter how good your opponent is. I mean, Super Bowl 49, I saw Brady and Russell Wilson go at it, and the Eagles, that was their big-time defense. They were a really good team. What was going to happen? Patriots ended up winning. Now, some of it was because of the Malcolm Butler pick, but the Patriots are the Patriots. And then against the Falcons, who were like an offensive juggernaut that year, and that was the year that the Patriots made the comeback. The Eagles did beat the Patriots in Super Bowl 52, and that was a very unlikely story, though, because of the Nick Foles situation. That was a crazy Super Bowl. I don't think anyone punted. And then 53 was the Patriots-Rams one, which was very low-scoring. So we'll just take that sample size. Well, in this particular case, the Chiefs actually played the Eagles 2 years ago. And at this point, I'm just not going to bet against the Chiefs. But let's look at the other side. Let's look at the Eagles. I haven't really talked much about the Eagles. The Eagles are a really good team. And I've been saying for most of the year, I've said I think the Chiefs were going to make it to the Super Bowl and lose to the Detroit Lions with how well the Lions were playing. But early in the year, I kind of talked about, to friends, I can't find my prediction sheet, and let's be honest, I'm really bad with it, with the NFL. So whatever predictions I had, aside from the Chiefs potentially going back to the Super Bowl, no. I've kind of said I need to swear off doing NFL predictions anyway. So in talking with friends and family, I said I really thought it was possible the Chiefs and the Eagles could play in the Super Bowl again until I saw how good the Lions were. The Lions were kind of a prove me wrong, and they eventually didn't. The Lions went to the conference championship last year. They didn't even make it that far this year. I'm not trying to put the Lions down, but they fooled a lot of people, and I think some of it has to do with the opponent. But it just, the Washington Commanders played football like we have nothing to lose, and everything just caught up with the Lions. So most of the year, I was saying I thought the Lions were going to the Super Bowl, but there was a brief point early in the year, and I'm not taking this like I predicted the Eagles to the Super Bowl. No, I said early in the season, the first few weeks, people thought who you like best. I said Eagles. And then about Thanksgiving time, I said Lions. So here we are with the Eagles. Now, why did I think the Eagles could go? Well, I had two particular players on my fantasy football team, so I watched a lot of Eagles games. I had Jalen Hurts, and I had Saquon Barkley. And Saquon Barkley is the championship caliber move the Eagles needed, in my opinion, to get over the hump. Will they? It remains to be seen. If it was Buffalo instead of the Chiefs, I'd say the Eagles are probably going to beat them. They do a lot of the same things Buffalo does, only better. Their running back, I would say, is a little bit better. Cook was really good. Saquon Barkley is having an MVP caliber season. Jalen Hurts runs the ball just like Josh Allen. And they do quarterback sneaks. The tush push feels inevitable. It's like Thanos. I am inevitable. In the conference championship game, Washington tried to jump the snap. They were trying to time it and kept jumping over the pile, and the Eagles kept changing the timing of it. And eventually, they were threatened with the referee can actually award a score if the same penalty is continuously committed. So the Eagles are like the Bills, only they do a lot of things a little bit better. It's going to be a big, big challenge for the Chiefs. Like I said, in Pick'em, I'm taking the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs can win. If you're talking about, is there a good reason to take some different bets? Is there a reason to be worried? I am more worried about the Eagles this time around than I was last time around. And they still have A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. They have some good players. The problem that Philadelphia has is, I don't think their coach is an idiot like some people do, but they do get too cute. They play a lot of analytics games. They take a lot of risks, and they need to just play to their strengths. The Bills did not stick to their guns late in that game, and it cost them. The Philadelphia Eagles play solid football start to finish. They absolutely can beat the Chiefs. I'm not even going to use the word upset, because I mean, I'm sure Kansas City's the favorite. We'll get to that in a moment. But these are two really good teams. And I know there's people saying, this is not the matchup the country wanted. We wanted Bills and Washington Commanders. We wanted a new story. These are two really good teams, and it's going to be very entertaining. So if you take who you wanted to see out of it and just appreciate the football game, it's going to be a good football game. I'm going to take just a moment to collect myself and look up the betting stuff, and we will get to that in the second half here. And we'll talk about what I'm looking at, maybe what Tim's looking at, and who I think can be the game changer in this Super Bowl. So this is StraussNet Sports Radio, Super Bowl 59 edition. I'll be right back. Welcome back to StraussNet Sports Radio, Super Bowl 59 edition. We've been talking about the Chiefs and the Eagles from standings and how they got there, and how early in the season I thought both teams could be a viable Super Bowl candidate. I will say that while I thought the Eagles and the Chiefs could make it, I thought Detroit was a big option, and I really thought this was Buffalo's year if the Chiefs didn't do it. Washington was not really in the picture for me. Like I said earlier, early in the season I thought Eagles, then I kind of shifted to Detroit, and Detroit kind of fell flat. I wonder what would have happened if Detroit and Philadelphia had played in the conference championship game. As for KC, the conference championship game is exactly what I thought it would be. It really felt like Buffalo had everything they needed this year, and they just didn't get it done. So we'll see what happens next year for them. But I still think they have some good pieces. I know all the talk about, do they need another coach? I don't know. I don't think their coach is bad. It just feels like Buffalo can't get out of their own way at the end, which is kind of the story of the Buffalo Bills. But I digress. We were looking at the Chiefs and the Eagles. Let's look at who I think can maybe be a game breaker for each team. Who is really the big deal? Who's very important? Who's the most important player on each team, or an area of each team? And obviously Saquon Barkley is going to be front and center for the Philadelphia Eagles. There's no doubt in my mind he's going to be a big factor. So I'm going to pull away from that, actually. If I can assume that Saquon Barkley is going to be the centerpiece of the Philadelphia Eagles, and obviously Jalen Hurts will run the ball, and obviously, I don't think it's a stretch to say the Eagles at some point will make a stupid move and try to run Jalen Hurts instead of just running Saquon Barkley. I don't know, but I'm going to say the Eagles' receiving core needs to be the most important part of their game. Maybe I'm wrong. I just feel like, people said in the conference championship game that maybe Saquon Barkley can set the record for touchdowns in a playoff game. And he definitely was good. He was really, really good. Let's look at what he was. Against Washington, he actually had 118 yards. He scored 3 touchdowns, and then the game just kind of got away from everything for Washington. So they didn't really, Washington caught back up a little, but I'm just assuming Saquon Barkley is going to do what Saquon Barkley does. I think the Eagles need to be able to move the ball downfield at times. It's the Super Bowl. It always gets intense. They're going to need some big plays. I think, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, they're going to need to find ways to score through the air. Let's look at what A.J. Brown did in his last game. So he had 96 yards on 8 targets, 6 receptions. He scored a touchdown. Devontae Smith, 4 targets, 45 yards. I think they've got to make sure their receivers stay involved. This seems like elementary school football stuff. Like, yeah, they're going to throw the ball, Aaron. Of course they are. Yes, but I'm saying they need to be able to do both effectively. Look at what Buffalo did. Buffalo left everything out there. And I think the Eagles are better than Buffalo. But I don't think you can rely on just one area And I know I said in the conference championship game that Buffalo didn't stick with Cook. I'm not saying the Eagles should move away from Saquon Barkley. I'm saying when push comes to shove, there's going to be a moment and they're going to need to make a big pass. So Saquon Barkley needs to take care of business, but they're going to have to find a way to go through the air as well. If I want to single out the most important player, I'm going to say it's Saquon Barkley, but I think one of the most important areas, I know I'm kind of jumbling this up here. Most important player is obviously, without a shadow of a doubt, Saquon Barkley. If Saquon Barkley does what Saquon Barkley does, the Eagles have a chance to win. But aside from that, they need to make sure their receivers are productive and well fed. Open up the game on both ends. There's going to be a play somewhere where they need to make a big pass, and are their receivers going to come through? Look at all these different Super Bowls we've seen where someone makes a big catch, whether it be 20 yards, 30 yards, something in the end zone. Someone's going to have to catch the ball at some point, and I think they need to make sure their receiving core is productive. Meanwhile, on the Chiefs' side, it's easy to say their defense needs to play really well. They've had a great defense all year. They've had games where their offense feels stagnant. Both games this postseason, with Houston, it was kind of a low-scoring game early. Defense needs to keep them in the game. With the Buffalo, almost said the Buffalo Sabres, with the Buffalo Bills, it felt like they were bending, cracking, never finished breaking. And they're going to need to do that again with the Eagles, and it's going to be tough with Saquon Barkley. So the defense, I'd say the Chiefs' defense is the obvious area, whereas with the Eagles, Saquon Barkley was the obvious person, and the important area for the Eagles was receivers. For the Chiefs, the important area is going to be their running game. Kareem Hunt and Isaiah Pacheco that's a really nice two-headed monster you got there to run the ball. Yes, obviously they're going to need to catch the ball. They're going to need to make good plays. Mahomes is going to open the game up. It's what happens. I think they have a bunch of really good receivers. This isn't like last year where no one was catching the ball. I'm not that worried about the receivers. Yeah, Travis Kelce's there to make a big play. I think Xavier Worthy is going to have a really memorable game because he's been getting better and better all year. All these plays where he was catching the ball barely out of bounds or not making the right decision. He's a young player. He's learned. He's turned into a number one type of receiver before our eyes. Though I'm going to say the Chiefs' defense is obviously the most important thing. The important players are going to be Kareem Hunt and Isaiah Pacheco. And I think Isaiah Pacheco is going to be more important than Kareem Hunt. Why, Aaron? Kareem Hunt's kind of been unstoppable. That's why. Kareem Hunt's been really good getting those few yards. He's the power running back. I want to see Isaiah Pacheco's angry runs where he gets the ball and then tears through for like 10, 13 yards, the big, long runs. I want to see Isaiah Pacheco take over this game and get back to what he was last year and the year before. So, the Chiefs, who's the most important player? I think Isaiah Pacheco needs to have a really nice game. That's not to say Kareem Hunt isn't going to have one. I think Isaiah Pacheco needs to keep up and do what he did before he got hurt. Most important area, defense. Most important person for the Eagles, Saquon Barkley. Most important area, aside from Saquon Barkley, I think their receivers need to stay involved in the game. They cannot only rely on Saquon Barkley. The Chiefs' defense is too good. You can't, just look at one area. Now let's get into the betting. I kind of teased you with betting and got into, keys to the game. So the Chiefs are the favorite, in fact. And by the way, I am on FanDuel Sportsbook. There are no sponsors and there is no money involved with this show. I have just selected FanDuel as the one that I will look at just to try to streamline things. Part of the reason I used to use Yahoo, used BetMGM. I don't know who they use now, but I'm using FanDuel because the local casino here in town uses that. And a few of us talk about what their numbers are. So just because of ease of access and what we look at, I will use FanDuel Sportsbook until I get to articles about fun prop bets because those are kind of sprinkled all over the internet, and I will let you know where everything comes from. But there is no sponsor. This is not an official sports book of the show or anything like that. It is just who I happen to be looking at. The Chiefs are the favorite at minus 124. The Eagles are plus 106. I'll tell you what, I will go to Yahoo, because usually I bounce this off Tim to look at a couple of different books. So let's see, what is Yahoo using? They are using BetMGM. So I said Chiefs were minus 124, Eagles were plus 106. On Yahoo with BetMGM, Chiefs are minus 130 and plus 110 for the Eagles. So a little stronger odds. So if you wanted the Eagles, you'd actually want MGM. If you wanted the Chiefs, you want the FanDuel. The spread is 1.5 points at minus 110 each. So Chiefs minus 1.5, Eagles plus 1.5. And the over-under is 48.5, minus 110 both ways. That's interesting because sometimes, and that is on FanDuel, over on BetMGM, it's 49 straight up. So if it's a 49-point game, you get your money back. Still 1.5, although it is minus 115 for minus 1.5 Chiefs, and it's minus 105 for plus 1.5 Philadelphia. So a little bit of a shuffle there between FanDuel and MGM. Let's go back over to FanDuel. Minus 1.5, minus 124, plus 106, and then 48.5. I am not putting anything on the Chiefs to win this game, just the game. I did, at the beginning of the playoffs, put $20 on the Chiefs. I don't remember what that number is. That is actually through DraftKings, and that is on a different person's phone. My wife's phone. She uses that service when she looks at things. But so I don't have that number in front of me right now. I think it was like $20 to win 80 if the Chiefs won the Super Bowl. Maybe not that much. Maybe not as much. I don't know. But the Chiefs were the 1 seed, so it wasn't going to be anything crazy. It might have been something like plus 330, where I'm getting like 60. That's starting to sound about right. Something 300 something. So I put 20 down for the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl to start the playoffs as a futures bet. I believe my wife took the Chiefs, and I have no idea what this was, but she took the Chiefs at the start of the season to win the Super Bowl. And we kind of looked around. I told her that, maybe the Vikings were a good team to take because they were a dark horse after they lost to the Lions. That they had a chance for the 1 seed and lost, so maybe they could do some more damage. They didn't. Now, I will tell you, Tim will never take the team that won the Super Bowl the year before or a team that has been very successful unless it's his team. He likes the underdog. Now, maybe he takes someone that he has no emotional attachment to. I know he's not a big fan of the Chiefs for a couple of different reasons. Some of it's the hype, but he definitely is not rooting for the Chiefs. If they were an underdog, maybe he'd have taken them, but I don't want to speak for him. I know he's not rooting for the Chiefs from a fan standpoint because they've won, and he wants to see a new champion. I don't think he had too much of a problem with the Dodgers or the Yankees winning in the World Series, although he probably would have preferred someone not as high power, but the Dodgers and the Yankees haven't won one for a while. Actually, the Yankees, it's been longer since they've won than the Dodgers. So I know Tim's rooting for the Eagles because they haven't won, although he's not a big fan of a lot of us aren't big fans of their fan base because they can be a bit wild. But I know he's pulling for the Eagles. I think he has the Eagles plus the 1.5. He might have an alternate line where he actually gets more points but has to bet more. Let's see if I can find something like that. Alternate lines. Do we have any alternate lines? More wagers. No, I don't have it on this website, but I know that there are... alternate spread. Philadelphia Eagles. Oh, those are Philadelphia Eagles minus points. No, I don't have it here. I don't have what Tim was looking at here. But there are ways where you can take more points and pay more money. You can buy points, essentially. Alternate spreads are usually the reverse. You get a lot of money to take less points. So if the Eagles are plus 1.5 and minus 110, you could probably get plus 110 for Eagles minus 1.5. So flip it. Flip the script. That's usually what an alternate spread is. So I know Tim is interested in the Eagles plus points. And I know he was looking at Buffalo with points. He looked at Baltimore over Buffalo with points, which did not cash by about that much. I don't remember what it was. I don't have that information in front of me. And he uses a different service as well, so I don't have their numbers. Obviously, it's old. So Tim is looking at Eagles plus the points. I don't know what I would take here with the over and under. It could be a high-scoring game. And it could also turn out to be like Super Bowl 53, where people thought the Patriots and the Rams were going to go crazy, and they absolutely didn't. Anytime touchdown scorers, Saquon Barkley is minus 180. He is the favorite to score a touchdown. Then Jalen Hurts at minus 115. Then Travis Kelce at plus 130. So the two Eagles runners, the quarterback and the running back, are minus because they score. If the Eagles score, they're going to score. I'm sure there's some sort of parlay you could do where you can take both of them at the same time. The Philadelphia defense is actually listed here at plus 650. The Kansas City defense is plus 700. Poor DeAndre Hopkins' odds are between the two defenses. He's plus 650. First touchdown scorer, Saquon Barkley, Jalen Hurts, Travis Kelce, Kareem Hunt, Xavier Worthy. Saquon Barkley is plus 420 and Jalen Hurts is plus 650. Kelce's plus 800. Two or more touchdowns, and it's kind of in the same order. Barkley, Hurts, Kelce, Hunt, Worthy, Brown. Now we get into some of the fun stuff. I love these. Some of the prop betting for the game. Coin toss. Heads minus 104, tails minus 104. I always go with heads. It means nothing. You are literally betting on the flip of a coin. If I walked up to you at the mall and said, here's $20. If you bet $20, I'll flip this coin. And whichever side it's on, we get the other person's money. And then if you fail, I enter you into the Squid Games. Correct score. Chiefs 10, Eagles 7 is at 43,000. So you could make a lot of money off of that. Chiefs 11, Eagles 9, 50,000. Let's see what like the highest. I mean, it gets crazy. You can bet on the exact score of the game. And now I've lost my spot on my page. Let's just reload it. I clicked on it, and it just opened up every score possible, and all of a sudden the page was endless. All right, more wagers. 4 legs, same game parlay. You can get Barkley, Hurts, Hunt, Worthy. That is a plus 1742. Bet $10 to win $174.23. So there's the game lines. Touchdown scorers, Eagles first drive, player to catch a pass. Game specials, each time a team scores a touchdown. Where is the will there be an octopus? I saw this earlier. The octopus is if a player scores a touchdown and a 2-point conversion. And I know for a fact that it's available because my wife had it a couple years ago and got it with Jalen Hurts. I think it was just, will there be an octopus? There it is. Any player to score an octopus, yes or no. Plus 1040, or for yes, no is minus 2,500. I don't remember whether she took Jalen Hurts to score an octopus or will there be an octopus. And I'm guessing in some locations you can get the yes-no or will Jalen Hurts yes-no or which player. Gatorade color. Purple is at 200. Yellow, lime, or green is plus 210. That's weird that yellow and green are separate. Are not separate. It's an and or. That's an interesting one because you could get that. There's some logic to taking that one if you like the Gatorade bath. Orange is plus 500. Blue is 650. Red or pink. Water or clear. Honestly, I would probably go water or clear at plus 1,000 because there's been the white Gatorade several times. Red plus 750. Blue's been a good one. Really, the two that the yellow and the purple, I haven't seen that as much. Orange, blue, red, or the white or clear seem to be more popular than the other ones the last few years. I don't know. Where can you look that information up? Who is in their basement writing down every Super Bowl Gatorade bath color of all time? And I think we did have a year where they did 2 buckets, and it was 2 different colors, and I don't know what that happened with that, if you win both or what, but all bets are void if there is no Gatorade shower. I did Octopus Scoregami, a unique final score in NFL history. Yes, plus 2,500, minus 10,000 for no, so you're not making much off of that. Coin toss winner. To win the coin toss and the game. Super Bowl prop bets. Where can I find more of them? Super Bowl MVP, Patrick Mahomes, minus 110. This is kind of interesting. Plus 280 for Saquon Barkley, plus 350 for Jalen Hurts. Then it gets to Travis Kelce at plus 1,800. Scoring props. Team to score first wins. That is yes for minus 172, no for plus 140. Will there be a 2-point attempt? This should be a lot stronger than it is. It's minus 105 for yes and minus 115 for no. Will there be a 2-point conversion attempt? I mean, I'm going like minus 1,000. That's going to happen. It's the Eagles. There's not going to be not a 2-point conversion attempt. We're not talking about succeeding. Will there be a safety? This is at plus 1,300 and minus 4,500. What will happen first for the Kansas City Chiefs? Score points or punt? Minus 142 for score, plus 116 for punt. Either team to score an offensive touchdown on opening drive. Plus 106 for yes, minus 130 no. Either team to score on their first offensive play. It is only yes at plus 2,500 because the odds would be so far crazy for no. Chiefs to score first. Eagles to score first. Chiefs, first play of the game. First scoring play of the game. Will it be a field goal, passing touchdown, receiving touchdown, defensive touchdown, safety, special teams? It's safeties plus 7,000. Special teams touchdowns plus 8,000. I think it's safeties less likely than the special teams. I mean, you could get 2 drives and then the Chiefs return a punt or something. And then you get your points scored in the different minutes of the game, quarters, unanswered scores. Let's continue on. Touchdown props. Anytime touchdowns, scorer props, game props. Team to receive the opening kickoff. Chiefs at minus 112. Eagles for minus 108. I want to know why those numbers are different. Why is that not 50-50? Maybe that's a Tim Bradshaw question. Because I would think so you flip the coin toss. You have the coin toss, and then you're gonna someone's gonna receive the ball. It's not like one team is determining the outcome. One team gets to call the coin toss, and then there's a coin toss. That's it. So I'm a little confused on why that's so strong. I guess maybe the Eagles defer more than the Chiefs. So if the Chiefs might want the ball and the Eagles never take the ball. I've not noticed any trends. This isn't like with the Patriots where Belichick always used to like to defer to the second half so they could try to do the double score at the end of the first half, and then score at the beginning of the second half. I don't know. Maybe there's some trends there. These guys watch these analytics more than me. Let's see, what else? Largest lead in the game, down props, first downs. Total first downs in the game, Kansas City first downs. There's some good stuff here. Next gen stats, passing, receiving. I'm looking for more fun stuff. You get Mahomes MVP award, passing attempts, yards, Hurts, Super Bowl 2026. You can already bet on next year's Super Bowl. Chiefs 2026 winners plus 600, Ravens plus 650, Eagles plus 700, Bills plus 850, Lions plus 1,000, 49ers plus 1,500. Yes, you can already bet on Super Bowl 60. We just had Super Bowl 50, and now it's Super Bowl 60. Let's shuffle over to one of the articles I pulled up and see about some of these fun national anthem lengths. Now, I always think it's going to be around 2 minutes. Going backwards the last several years, we had 1:30, 2:01, 1:52, 2 minutes 17 seconds, 1:49, 2:01, 1:52, 2:04, 2:03, and 2:36. So whenever I talk to people, I tell people, is it over under 2 minutes? I guess it's in seconds. The over under is 120 and a half seconds. 120 divided by 60. So yes, 2 minutes. Yes, I did do the math there for everyone quietly. I didn't need it, but 60 seconds times 2, 120. So for everybody who wondered, 120 seconds is 2 minutes. So 120.5. Now there have been years where it's not 120 seconds. It's a little over or a little under, and I think that's on purpose. I remember distinctly Demi Lovato with the 149 thinking, oh, she's going to go over. That was Super Bowl 53, and she did 149. It's like, man, missed it by that much. This year, let's see who is singing the national anthem. It's in New Orleans. John Baptiste will be performing. So, do you think he's going to perform the anthem at a 2-minute pace? He has performed the national anthem at major sporting events. He sang a quick 90-second in 2017 at the NBA All-Star Game, and 106 seconds, a minute and 46, at the 2017 U.S. Tennis Open. He is a jazz R&B singer and will presumably play the piano. I'm going to take the over. I'm just going to take the over. I always feel like it's 2 minutes. They like to spruce it up. Now, maybe I'm wrong. He did do it quickly for the maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you should all just ignore my... I always like to take over 2 minutes because, when does it start, though? Does it start when... If you've watched the Super Bowl, it seems like there's instrumental in the background, and then it gets going. We're analyzing the national anthem. I just want you all to know we're analyzing the national anthem. This is what's wrong with the Super Bowl prop betting, and it's hilarious. Does it start when the instrumental starts or when they start singing? Because there's always all this instrumental, and then we get into the singing. And while, yes, he did a 90-second and a 106-second, you add like 20 more seconds onto that, you got your 2 minutes. It's minus 110. The pick is minus 110 from the website I'm looking at here, Betting Pros. So they think under. The average time for these past 10 anthems is 120 and a half seconds. Coincidentally, that's the over-under. Notably, the over has hit in 4 straight Super Bowls and 5 of the last 6. Yes, because it's not always been the same. It's not just 120. So, yes, Reba McEntire was a minute 30, but she did do the over for the betting. I always say, for fun, is it over or under 2 minutes, but in terms of betting, it's not always 2 minutes. Every performer is different, though, and John Baptiste's history of singing a quick version is hard to ignore. So, yeah, maybe it is. I always like to go over 2 minutes, but maybe they're right. Maybe the betting pros are the betting pros. Halftime, it's going to be Kendrick Lamar, and you can bet on the opening song. I'm going to completely admit I don't know any of his music. None of it. I'm not familiar with him that much. I know who he is, but you can bet on the song for that. They have DNA as plus 500. Gatorade Bath Color. We talked about this in the last one. Let's see what they say. It's a classic. It's very popular. Over the past 15 years, orange has been the most popular color used. Orange also leads the way since 2001, but is closely followed by blue, clear, and purple at 4 apiece. See, that's why I said blue and the clear. It's the white Gatorade has been very popular. Chiefs have won the past 2 years, and there's some very relevant data. Purple was Gatorade dumped on Andy Reid after the last 2 Super Bowls. When they won Super Bowl 54, orange was a color of choice. If you think the Chiefs three-peat, then purple would be the color to go. When the Eagles won the Super Bowl in 2018, they used the yellow, green, lemon, lime look. That was poured on Doug Peterson. That makes sense since Philadelphia's primary color is green. There's more value on the yellow-green at $2.50 since the Eagles are slight underdogs to win the game. This bet comes down to which team you think will win. If you're on Kansas City, go with purple. If you're Philly, go yellow-green. They are going yellow-green at plus 250, and that is from BetMGM. They are using BetMGM for their article here. I don't think it necessarily matters which team it is. I do think that it matters maybe a little more for the Chiefs if they like the purple. They've done it the last 2 years. Then maybe it's the purple. But I think anybody can be caught using the orange. I think the orange was in Miami where Gatorade was invented. Not necessarily Miami, but Florida, because the Gators. And yeah, that's all they got listed here. We'll do a quick gaze at an ESPN article here, see if they've got anything fun for us. The Feeling 22 Yards, a Swifties Guide to the Taylor-themed Super Bowl Prop Bets by Liz Loza. Let's see if they have it. The End Game. Will Travis Kelce score a touchdown? These must all be songs of Taylor Swift's. I'm familiar with her, but not every song name she's got. Travis Kelce to score a touchdown, plus 115. Treacherous. Travis Kelce to score plus 1 reception in each quarter at plus 175. Travis Kelce's Super Bowl receptions by a quarter. He doesn't score in quarter 2 a lot. He's got, if we're looking at Super Bowl 54, 5, 7, and 8. In quarter 1, he's got 2-1-3-1. Quarter 2 is 0-4-0-0. Quarter 3 is 2-1-2-3. Quarter 4 is 2-4-1-4. And he did have a reception. These aren't touchdowns, these are just receptions. He did have a reception in Super Bowl 58 in overtime. 22. Travis Kelce to record 22 receiving yards in each half at plus 120. That is on purpose. There is no reason to have a 22-yard bet. That is because of what it is. Wildest Dreams. Travis Kelce to score a 50-yard touchdown plus 1,300. In fairness to number 87, he's so tall and handsome as hell. He also does this football thing so very well. However, Kelce has managed only 4 grabs of 50 or more receiving yards, including playoffs, over his 12-year career. 7. The Saquon Barkley to record 15 rushing yards in every quarter at plus 175. I don't know where she's getting her numbers. Let me see if I can scroll back up and find that. This obviously is a very Taylor Swift themed article. I've ESPN Bet. They're using ESPN Bet. ESPN has their own thing now. That's news to me. But anywho, there's some prop bets for you. So if you're looking at the Super Bowl, do you think the Chiefs can three-peat? Do you use my Houston Astros logic? They are what they are until they're not. You can't bet against them. You can hope against them. I have no problem with my buddy Tim rooting against the Chiefs because he doesn't want to see a three-peat. He wants to see someone new. I would like to see them three-peat. I don't even care if they don't win the next Super Bowl. I would just like to see I don't want them to go, crash and burn or anything, but I'd like to see the three-peat. And obviously I'm a little invested because I got to go to the conference championship game for this Super Bowl. So this one means a little bit more to me. Although I will admit, leading up to the conference championship game, I kept saying over and over and over, please just win today. Please just win. Please win the conference championship. I want to be there and witness a conference championship. I don't even care if they don't win the Super Bowl. That's a lie. I do care if they win the Super Bowl. but I won't complain or cry if they don't. I'll be good. I've been spoiled, and again, this is coming from someone who started their football fandom watching Tom Brady as a Patriots fan because I didn't have a local regional team, and now I feel like I have a regional team, and I get heat for liking those two particular teams, and then, rooting for Brady while he was in Tampa. That was a Brady thing, not a Tampa thing. But enough about me. If you're rooting for the Chiefs because you like the Chiefs, or you're a Taylor Swift fan, or you like Mahomes, or you want to see the three-peat, or you've bet on them, or if you're an Eagles fan, or you just want to see someone beat the Chiefs, or if you really just like Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley, or you're an NFC person, it should be a good game in a week. Tomorrow's Super Bowl opening night. Hope you all get to enjoy watching that, seeing all the hijinks of, maybe someone shows up in a dress. I'd like to go to that someday. Maybe you're going to go down to New Orleans just for the sake of New Orleans. Should be a good game, though. I'm really excited for it. I think it's a great matchup. And here's a concept that I always talk about. Who would I like to lose to? Because I'm a glass half full, but there's also some empty space in it type person. I think the Chiefs can win. I'm happy they're there. But, for example, when the Patriots played the New York Giants, I did not want to lose to the Giants whatsoever. It made me mad both times. Some of it because of the way the first one went. But I wouldn't have been mad if the Washington Commanders made it, or the Detroit Lions, the Minnesota Vikings. There's not really an NFC team that I just don't like. Having said that, if the Eagles win, I'll be happy for them. I like a lot of their players. I've used a lot of their players in fantasy football. When the Patriots lost to the Eagles in 2018, in Super Bowl 52, I'm not going to use a year just because of the years don't match up with the season. I think it was a 2017 season in actuality. Super Bowl 52, they lose to the Eagles. It's such a good story with Nick Foles and all that. You couldn't be too mad. I was disappointed, but you couldn't be too mad. If they lose to the Eagles, so be it. I like this Eagles team better than I like the 49ers. Not that I had anything wrong with the 49ers, but, and in the Super Bowl with Brady versus Mahomes, I was pulling for Brady. I will admit this. I was pulling for Tom Brady, the first favorite player I had in my football life. I pulled for Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski and Tampa Bay. And if I probably talked about it on my podcast, but if the Chiefs had won, the Chiefs won. It was kind of a no-lose situation there for me. If Buffalo had been in, I'd be probably rooting for the Eagles, honestly, but if the Eagles win, so be it. They'll deserve it. But I really hope the Chiefs get their three-peat. I hope you all enjoy the Super Bowl. Let's take a break and come back and do an ever so slight bit of baseball talk, because I want you guys to know where the Cardinals and company are heading into spring training, because then we'll do our spring training episode in about a month. Be right back. Welcome back to StraussNet Sports Radio. It is the Super Bowl edition, but I always at the end of this like to tease the baseball season because that's coming up. So I want to do just an ever so slight bit on mainly the Cardinals. The St. Louis Cardinals in the 2024 season finished with 83 wins. That number should ring a bell. The 2006 St. Louis Cardinals finished the season with 83 wins and won a World Series. The difference is this Cardinal team did not have the likes of Albert Pujols and Jim Edmonds and Scott Rowland. Instead, they had an offense that sputtered time and time again. It was unfortunate. They looked last year like they were going to be a little bit on the uptick. Maybe they didn't do quite enough in the offseason, but the offense was not where people thought they were going to have trouble. They went out last year and got Sonny Gray. They had Lance Lynn. They had Kyle Gibson. And at the end of the season, in the middle of the season, they actually added at the trade deadline. They added Eric Fetty. They got one more starting pitcher. Now, they weren't all high-end starting pitchers or anything. Sonny Gray was, but the pitching was pretty good. They were doing well. But the offense, Paul Goldschmidt and Nolan Arenado did not live up to themselves last year. Paul Goldschmidt only had 19 home runs. He hit .245. Nolan Arenado hit 16 home runs. He hit .272, but his defense also didn't seem like it was entirely there. I don't know what his defensive percentage is, and that's not what I mean. There were plenty of plays where it seemed like he was slow getting to the ball, or he was having trouble reaching for it. I don't know if he had a bad back. He did admit during the season that he felt a lot of pressure, and it was making him frustrated and not play well, and he needed to be a better teammate. And by the end of the season, he ended up saying, I'm going to focus more on being a mentor than, putting all this pressure on myself and having a bad attitude. And he started to do a little better at the end. But the season came to a close. Paul Goldschmidt was a free agent, and there were talk that maybe they would explore re-signing him, and they decided not to, which was something that I thought last year was possible regardless, that it was his last season as a St. Louis Cardinal. He's getting up there in age, free agent, easy chance for them to move off of him. Now, I was hoping they'd re-sign him to like a 1 or 2 year deal, just try to keep this going. I thought, maybe they're still a couple pieces away from getting back to where they were in maybe 22. Maybe they were lucky in 22. Maybe the 19 team was lucky. I still just felt like they could get it going again. The mission wasn't to be world beaters. It was to be better than they were in 23. And they were like 10 games better than they were in 23. So they were actually a lot better. But the offense just never came around the way it needed to. It was never consistent. And so the writing kind of became obvious. The writing was on the wall. Paul Goldschmidt, they said they were not going to bring him back. And I think there's a lot of people who would have liked to see him come back. There's a lot of people who felt like maybe it is time to move on. Nolan Arenado, on the other hand, still has some years left on his contract. And this is where the shock value came in. At the end of the year, the Cardinals management and ownership said, we're going to do a reset. We're going to try to move off of all of our big contracts. Contreras, Sonny Gray, Nolan Arenado, Paul Goldschmidt, Lance Lynn, Kyle Gibson. Trade Ryan Helsley when he only has 1 year left on his contract and had a season to remember, like one of the best closer seasons in recent history. We're going to trade everyone just so we can let the young guys play and clear money. That didn't sit well with anyone. For some players, they said, no, I'm not going anywhere. Sonny Gray said, I came here for a reason. I want to be part of this. I'm close to my home. I'm staying. No trade clause enacted. Wilson Contreras said, I want to be part of this. I'm going to use my no trade clause. Nolan Arenado said, I'm going to give you a list of teams that I'm willing to go to because, I want to win something. And he's getting to the point where he's getting on the back half of his prime. So it might be a struggle for him to win something at some point. And I don't begrudge him for that, but I also don't believe that he wanted to leave. I'll get more into Nolan Arenado in a moment because that's where this is all going. The fans, some of them said, let's dump all the dead weight. The Goldschmidt-Arenado era was a failure. We never even won a playoff game with the two guys. Someone said they did win one, but they won one with... They won in 2020 was the last postseason game they won. They didn't win the wild card game in 21. They didn't win either wild card game in 22, and they haven't been back to the playoffs since. So they didn't do what they needed to do in the Goldschmidt-Arenado, the Goldenado era, if you will. And I don't necessarily think it's their fault. They didn't perform in the playoffs, but I don't feel like they were properly built around. Still, I mean, it just didn't come together. 22, I thought they could win something because Pujols was having a resurgence and they could ride that, but it never came together. So some of the Cardinals fans say, let's start over. Let's do something different. Let's do what the Blues are trying to do. Let's reset, retool, whatever you want to call it. Let the young guys come up. They do have some good young players coming. So maybe, clear the deck and start fresh. And if you think about it, the teams like the 2013 team were built from within with some nice veterans around the peripheral, like Matt Holliday and Carlos Beltran. But a lot of the players that really made that team special, besides those top-tier guys, were built from within. I think that's flawed logic to some degree, and I'm with the other half of fans that thinks the team is salary dumping for the sake of salary dumping. They don't want to spend any money. They don't want to be like the Dodgers. They just want to keep the money. They're not getting money off the books and reinvesting it. They're just keeping it. There's talk that they wanted to revamp their minor league system, and Wilson Contreras even admitted that their development and minor league infrastructure and all that did need to be renovated. But here's the thing: if you hire a bunch of coaches, and they needed coaches, like they didn't have as many coaches and they didn't have as much technology as some of these other teams. If you do all that, you're still spending it in 2026, 7, and so on. So it's not like Paul Goldschmidt's off the books. Let's use his money to do all this. That doesn't expire. You are permanently increasing that department of your organization. So are you telling me you're never going to spend money again? I don't believe that that's really the route. I think that they're still hurting from 2020 with the fanless season and fans being frustrated the last 2 years, stopping coming to games as much because attendance dropped off in 23 and it picked back up in 24 because people were excited about Sonny Gray and could the team turn around. But then as things trailed off, like there was no one at games at the end of the year. It was like I had 200 level tickets. The Cardinals have 4 levels of seats essentially, 100 downstairs, 200, and then upstairs it's 300 and 400. And I had 200 level tickets for really, 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 really cheap, like $20, $30. Those are usually like 50 and up. My wife was getting all-inclusive tickets for under $100 by the end of the year. I mean, they're hurting from the fans, and it did not help that ownership, when asked early in the season, like, if fans stop showing up, what does that do? Well, we turn that into payroll, so I guess if fans don't show up, it affects payroll. We'll have to make an adjustment. So threatening the fan base was a horrible look for them. And pretty much at every turn, they've insulted their own fan base with this process. If you want to revamp the minor leagues, if you want to clear the deck and get some of the young guys up, that's fine. But you still got to spend some money somewhere. They've spent literally nothing this offseason. Who have they traded away, Aaron? No one. You hear that silence? That's the sound of the Cardinals making moves. Sonny Gray didn't want to go anywhere. Wilson Contreras didn't want to go anywhere. Wilson Contreras has been informed he will be the first baseman. I think he's going to be first base and DH because they want to get Ivan Herrera and Pedro Pages some time and maybe keep Wilson Contreras healthy. The reality is they don't like how Wilson Contreras catches. They took him out of the spot in 23. They've mishandled him every step of the way, but he was a really good bat last year when he was healthy. He got hit on the forearm with a bat on a backswing by accident and missed some time. And then he hurt himself later in the season and missed more time. So he was in and out of the lineup. If you have Wilson Contreras at first base all year, or DH and Alec Burleson plays first base, whatever, however you want to do it, if you say a healthy Wilson Contreras replaces Paul Goldschmidt offensively, that might be an upgrade. Maybe. You could also say maybe Paul Goldschmidt rebounds and having both of them as an upgrade. Maybe you just DH Wilson Contreras, because at this point, when they took Wilson Contreras off a catcher 2 years ago, it was to play Andrew Kisner, who's not much of a hitter. Good catcher, though. This past year, the guys who caught in Wilson Contreras' absence and who are going to catch most of the time this coming year, Ivan Herrera, big prospect, needs to work on his defense, very good hitter, and Pedro Pages, very good catcher, not as good a hitter, but a nice tandem there. So you have it actually reminds me of Christian Vasquez and Sandy Leon, although Christian Vasquez is a pretty good catcher when he came up. Herrera still needs to polish some things, but I think he'll be fine. So yeah, if you look at it, this is a good chance to move Wilson Contreras off catcher. I disagree with it, but if you feel like those two guys are capable, add Wilson Contreras to the lineup in another spot. Ryan Helsley, I don't know what they ever really wanted to do with him because they said, well, we're going to trade him because he only has 1 year of his contract left. And closers aren't good investments to sign long term. I mean, you see teams moving closers in and out all the time. I don't know if they're going to sign Helsley long term, but they didn't trade him, at least with, pitchers and catchers report to spring training. I don't know what the Cardinals' date is, but I have some report on the 10th. Remember, I said Super Bowl 59 is the 9th, next Sunday. That means Monday, spring training starts. A week from tomorrow, spring training starts. Ryan Helsley is on the team. He's going to be on the team. And they said they're kind of likely to hang on to him. I think they wanted to get value for Helsley as opposed to money, and they never got what they wanted offer-wise. He is somebody who you could move at the trade deadline next year, or this year, like Jordan Hicks in 23. Closers are hot trade deadline commodities, and maybe they just refocus their efforts there. Sonny Gray didn't want to move. Contreras didn't want to move. Okay, well, where does that leave us? Nolan Arenado. Nolan Arenado didn't have the season he wanted to last season. Some of the fans are frustrated with him because he showed some of his bad attitude. I don't think he has a bad attitude. I think there's nothing wrong with Nolan Arenado. I think he wants to be in St. Louis. I think he's a good player. I think there are some things bothering him. I think he's going to have a monster season. I've seen video of him in the offseason. I don't want to see him traded. I don't want to see him traded ever, but I keep saying, if you give me one more year to enjoy Nolan Arenado, like I knew last year could be the last year of Paul Goldschmidt, and I appreciated him. I want one more. As a fan, I'm just going to step out of my radio, podcast, reporter shoes for a second and jump into the fan shoes and say, please give me one more year of Nolan Arenado, maybe more. But this guy's one of my favorite players. I don't latch on to the super duper stars on the team all the time. Usually I go for like a peripheral player. You know, when Matt Holliday was here, I like Matt Holliday. I have a Matt Holliday jersey. But around that time, I really gravitated towards Matt Carpenter, who was kind of a rising star, but sort of a side player. A good complementary player. He kind of moved into the spotlight. With this team, Paul Goldschmidt and Nolan Arenado have got to be two of my favorite St. Louis Cardinals that I've ever watched. I love the guys. As people, as players, there's things about each guy that I love. I love that Paul Goldschmidt is the ultimate professional. Goes out there, does what he does, doesn't get too high or too low. Great player. Great in the community. Nolan Arenado. Love the intensity. I love how dynamic a player he is. And he does stuff in the community too. They're just, it's a little bit of an odd couple thing. They're just a little bit different personality types, but these two guys have been so much fun to watch, and I don't want to see them go anywhere. In fact, I actually, around Christmas time, on some sales, bought a new blue Nolan Arenado jersey, knowing he could be gone. Now, the tags are still on it. I can still make an exchange if I want, if he gets traded. But I might not. I might just keep it. And in fact, my dad gave me $100 for Christmas. And I saw on MLBshop.com the Cardinals, an authentic Cardinals City Connect jersey of Paul Goldschmidt's that was on sale because he's gone. Went and got that. So I actually have 2 new jerseys for these guys entering the season. Tentatively, the tags are still on the Arenado one. The Goldschmidt one I'm keeping. That's an authentic jersey. That's something special. But the Arenado one, I really want to be able to clip those tags off and wear that to my first Cardinal game of the year and appreciate the guy for one more season. Back to the reporter and the analyst shoes. I don't know if they're going to trade him. Go back to the earlier in the offseason, like winter meetings. There was a report that the Houston Astros had agreed to a trade with the Cardinals. And I don't know what all was involved in that, but the Cardinals want money. They don't want prospects for Nolan Arenado. They want to clear his salary. That is the goal. They're not going to get value for him. The Astros had a deal in place where the Cardinals were going to trade him there, and Arenado said no. Now, it was also like a day or two after the Astros traded Kyle Tucker to the Chicago Cubs. And if I'm Nolan Arenado, no, I don't want to go somewhere where you're maybe tearing some things down. They eventually signed Christian Walker to be their first baseman. So they no longer need Nolan Arenado. I think that's a good fit for them as well. They've been looking for a first baseman. Alex Bregman is also still on the market, so that has mucked up the works. Because teams that are looking at Arenado are looking at him as a fallback for Alex Bregman. The Red Sox have mentioned him, but they're interested in Bregman, I believe. They at least were at some point. So they're probably going to wait for the free agent before they make a trade. There was talk about the Red Sox making a trade with Arenado and potentially trading Tristan Casas. I don't know if any of that was true. There's a couple people I follow online who seem to have some sources inside of organizations that they can't say who they are, but then get a little feisty when you ask them what their sources are instead of just saying, I have sources inside the organization that I can't name. They just like to say, I'm my own source. So there's that. Then they like to jump on a lot of things. And yeah, they're first on, I'm talking about a very specific account, and I'm not going to name it, but this guy is very good with his information. He had the Cardinals' new hitting coach before a lot of the major sources did, but also will be like 100% this is going to happen tomorrow, and it hasn't happened. So I don't know what to think on Nolan Arenado. There was also a report that the Yankees could look into him so they could move Chaz Chisholm to second base and then put Arenado and Goldschmidt back together. By the way, Paul Goldschmidt has signed with the New York Yankees, and I think this is a fantastic move for him. I will miss him, but I'm happy, despite liking the Red Sox, I'm happy that he is landing in a very, very good place for him. So at this point, I don't really see the avenue to trade Nolan Arenado unless the Yankees revisit it, the Red Sox revisit it, someone who doesn't get Alex Bregman, maybe the Tigers, I don't know. I don't think the Mets are going to try to trade for Nolan Arenado. They still have Pete Alonso out there, too, that they're looking at. He wants to go to the Dodgers, and I just don't see the Dodgers trading for him. They have Max Muncy. They'd have to clear him. The Dodgers have added so much. They got Sasaki. They've gotten like all the big names. I don't think they're going to go trade for Nolan Arenado's contract and hold on to Max Muncy. They would have to find someone to take Muncy and then trade for Arenado. So I just don't see that happening, and I don't see this all happening in the course of a week. Now, maybe it does. Maybe the Cardinals panic. There's been reports that they are willing to keep more of the money on Arenado's contract than before. Maybe if they could get a good return, they'd be more willing to go that route. The point is they would like to see Nolan Gorman get third base every day. And this is what the reset is. Guys like Nolan Gorman, Jordan Walker, who maybe have struggled at times and then have been taken out of the lineup in favor of winning, now need to be in the lineup every day, no matter what, even if they're struggling. It's their job. There's like Mason Wynn last year. You didn't hit last year, so what? We're going to play you every day at shortstop. We'll start you low in the lineup, and if you hit, we'll move you up. But just play your game. And he turned into a stud last year. I think he's going to be better and better. I think Mason Wynn, short aside, I think Mason Wynn can turn into a Troy Tulowitzki or Dustin Pedroia type player who can develop some power, and who knows what his ceiling is if he's got power, speed, batting average, defense. Anyway, the Cardinals obviously want to move Nolan Arenado for the money and to get Nolan Gorman at third base. The longer this has gone, the more I'm thinking he's going to at least start the year with the team. I don't really know that they're going to trade him in spring training. But again, this all boils down to what happens with Alex Bregman and Pete Alonso. This thing where guys aren't signing until spring training or later is getting ridiculous. These were like two of the premier free agents. Like the offensive free agents, Pete Alonso was one of the biggest bats out there. And no one will sign him. Because they're holding out for more money. And I always side with the players. Like, go get whatever you can get. But at some point, we've seen players like Jordan Montgomery even say, not having spring training hurt me. I think these guys need to hurry up and find a team to sign. Like, find a deal this week, sign, get to camp next week, and be good to go for the season. Things can feel normal. And then we'll see Nolan Arenado's domino fall. But in my opinion, the closer we get to opening day, the more likely Nolan Arenado stays on the Cardinals till at least the trade deadline. I could be wrong. I hope I'm not. I hope he has a monster year. And here's the other thing. He could have a monster year, raise his value, or this division hasn't gotten much better. The Cubs got better. They definitely got better. They traded Bellinger to the Yankees and also traded for Kyle Tucker. They traded for Ryan Presley. Like, they finally have a closer. They have a star outfielder. They're starting to put it together. They went out and got Adames, and they're putting a team together. The Cubs look like they could be pretty good this year. I don't feel like the Brewers have kept up quite as much. But if you look at the Cardinals, I don't think you have to play Nolan Arenado. I don't think you have to play Nolan Gorman at third base to get everybody in the lineup. You can play either the catchers. Contreras can play first base or Burleson. Gorman can play second, or DH, and Donovan can play second. You got Wynn, you got Arenado. You play Nootbaar in center field, and I know they've been a little bit sheepish about doing that because he seems to stay healthier in right, but he didn't stay healthy last year and he played right field. So you play Nootbaar in center field. they played Siani and Scott last year because they wanted defense, and that didn't work out for them. They didn't have enough offense. So I say start the year with Lars Nootbaar in center field, Jordan Walker in right, and then either Alec Burleson in left with Gorman at second, with Donovan at second and Gorman DHing, or Donovan in left with Gorman at second and Burleson or Contreras DHing. You got your team. You go Wynn at short. Burleson hit second a lot last year. Maybe start the year with him hitting second, or you start the year with Donovan hitting second. I only say, most of the offseason I said Burleson should hit second because that's where he had a lot of his success last year. But maybe you go Wynn, Donovan, Contreras, Arenado, Burleson, Nootbaar, Herrera to break things up, Gorman, Walker, and, no one really deserves to hit ninth in that lineup. It's not a bad lineup. The problem they have is they've got Sonny Gray, Eric Fetty, who there's been talk that maybe they could move him. I would move him over Arenado. Then Michaelis, Palante was good last year, then Matz. And there's still talk that they could bring Kyle Gibson back because he was really good with all the young players last year, and he was very, very reliable. He was one of the most reliable. And when I say reliable, I don't mean like the best. He was above average. He was good, but you kind of knew you were getting from every time out. It wasn't like it fluxed. Sonny Gray went through some injuries. He was up and down at times. So I would say the Cardinals have a team that, if they keep it together, I think they need a couple more pitching pieces. I would sign Gibson and maybe find another bullpen piece that you could compete for the division. You could. I'm like, all the things that went wrong last year. Look at the team last year. If they had a chance to win that division, if they have Goldschmidt and Arenado and Contreras all healthy and performing like they normally do, I think the Cardinals could have won that division. And now, I don't expect them to win the division. I'm probably in our spring training show not going to pick them as the division winner. I don't know what kind of year they're going to have. I don't know if they're a playoff team. I don't know if they're the second best team in the division. Probably Cubs and Brewers ahead of them. I'm realistic. What I'm saying is, if a lot of things go right and they don't get rid of anyone else between bounce back seasons and young players that can still come up, what if Gorman's better? What if Walker's good all year? What if Nootbaar stays healthy? What if Burleson takes a step forward? What if Arenado's better? What if Contreras is good from start to finish and healthy? Look at all that in the offense. And then you just need maybe a little more pitching. Or maybe you have it in the minors. So I think the Cardinals definitely have a chance to be better than we think they can be. But I'm also still furious about how the offseason has gone. And the dumping play. I hate dumping players. I hate salary dumping. I don't have a problem with owners making money. I have a problem with owners not wanting to spend it. This is Oakland A's kind of crap, where it's like, well, we can't afford to do anything, and we need to actually make the team worse so we can have a little more money. No. Spend like every other team in baseball. And the Cardinals are not one of the teams that doesn't have it, and they have, when Stillman took over the Blues, they didn't have all the money in the world. They were kind of like, they bought it to save it from where things were with the Ricketts family. And the Checketts, not the Ricketts, Checketts. They saved it from the Checketts family. And they didn't have a ton of money, but they had enough to get it going. And as success came around, they made more money and they've invested it. And there's salary cap implications in hockey, but they've made sure to do well by the fans. The Cardinals aren't doing well by anyone with this money-saving nonsense. So we're, about a week from spring training starting. We're going to have the Super Bowl, and then it's going to be spring training baseball time. The spring training hats are released tomorrow. So I'm hoping that Nolan Arenado stays. But here's the thing. If he doesn't, there's still an avenue for the Cardinals to find success, but they need more things to go right. And I'm not just talking about this year. if they keep Nolan Arenado, let's say they kept him long term and he bounces back, they've still got potentially a premier third baseman. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Arenado's over the hill and he's never going to be what he was again. Although the Red Sox had some good years out of Mike Lowell after he was starting to, come downhill a little bit. I don't think there's anything wrong with still having Nolan Arenado. But let's say they don't. Then it's probably a pretty cut and dry lineup. You're talking about the catchers, Contreras or Burleson at first, or DH. Donovan plays second. Wynn plays short. You got Gorman at third. Nootbaar plays left. Ciani or Scott in center. And Walker's in right. And that's not even mentioning do you DH Walker or not, because he's not a good outfielder. There's got to be something to Walker not liking the DH, because they never DH him. He should be a designated hitter. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Unbelievably, there's still free agents out there. There's a lot that hasn't been done. Frankly, I'm frustrated with the Cardinals. I'm frustrated with MLB for not moving itself along, not getting along. Some of these free agents need to get signed, and it's going to have to happen quick. But I digress. I don't mean to be all doom and gloom. We will have our spring training episode where we kind of predict what's going to happen with the baseball season. Enjoy Super Bowl 59. Go Eagles if you're Tim. Go Chiefs if you're me. Either way, I hope it's a great game and everybody enjoys themselves. Happy Super Bowl Sunday, and tomorrow, happy Super Bowl opening night. Thank you, and this has been StraussNet Sports Radio. We'll see you next time.
Just to watch